Hello, grade 9s, and we're solving quadratic equations with up to two solutions. And the quadratic equations, these are the ones that have things that have an x squared in it. Now, in the Khan Academy videos and the work from last week, I know that you looked at some things where you had one solution was normally the situation, you ended up with x equals 3, or you end up with no solutions. You had something nonsense like 3 equals 7, or you had infinitely many solutions like 2 equals 2, and then it was always true. Now for this one, we know we're always going to have up to two solutions. We could have the same solution twice, but there was going to be two solutions. Let's run through this by way of a few examples. If I gave you x squared equals 9 and said solve for x, immediately you're going to go, cool, well x equals 3. Okay, but the sharper amongst you have said, there's a second solution here as well. What other value when you square it will give you 9? Well, hint if you haven't got there, a positive times a positive gives you a positive, and a negative times a negative gives you that positive. So negative 3 or 3. So there are two solutions, and the hint comes up here in the 2. Now, as I said, it's up to 2. Those two could be what's called the same solution, or there might not be any solutions, but it's up to 2. So yeah, we've got 2, x equals 3 or x equals negative 3. But instead of going, we took the square root, positive or negative, let's look at a method that's going to work all the time, and we're going to keep using this for the next few years, actually. Just been doing with grade 10s and just 11s on parabolas, and we're using the same concept here of solving these types of equations. So let's take our original equation, x squared equals 9, and use this method. Let's rearrange it so we've got kind of everything on the one side, and it equals 0. So we've got x squared, and what we're going to do is subtract 9 so that the right-hand side says 0. And I know from those balances, what you do on one side, do on the other. So we're going to subtract 9. So we've got x squared minus 9 equals 0. Now here's our equation, just a different form of this equation we're given to start with. And what we're going to do after we've done that, so this is step 1, we're going to go do something equals 0. The next thing we're going to do is to factorize. Now, we spent so much of the first bit of the year simplifying and factorizing and factorizing and factorizing some more, and we're going to be factorizing some more even, because it's just such a useful tool to have. So if we factorize this, and when we factorize, we ran through our steps and said, first thing, common factor. Well, there's nothing common to both of these except 1. I mean, I guess we could say a half or something, but nothing too interesting. Second thing we looked at was difference of two squares. Is this a difference of two squares? Is it a difference? Yeah, it's a difference. It's a minus. Are these both nice squares? X squared? Yeah, that's a square. 9, also a square. So how do we factorize this? We went bracket, 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 bracket. Don't forget, it's still an equation, equals 0, equals 0. Now, how do we factorize this? What's in our brackets? Well, what times what gives us the x squared? X times x. Now, what are we going to multiply by itself to give us the 9? 3 and 3. Now, I suggested let's put the plus in the first bracket and the minus. Doesn't matter which way around. It could have been minus 3, plus 3. But I think it's easier to go plus 3 and then the minus, just in case we have to factorize further. Okay, so let's keep rolling with this. Now we've got two brackets times each other equals 0. And you're probably thinking this seems more complicated than the x squared equals 9, but it's to give us a way that's going to work all the time. So if you multiply two numbers and their product is 0, what must one of those numbers be? Well, if this first number, if this was 0, this whole bracket, if this was 0 times this bracket here, what would the product be? What's 0 times anything? Yeah, 0. So in other words, if we made this bracket 0 as our one option, if x plus 3 equals 0, then 0 times the other bracket, no matter what it is, will be 0. So there's our one solution. So in this case, if x plus 3 equals 0, well, we could subtract 3 from that side, so we just got x. What you do on one side, you do on the other. So x equals minus 3. Okay, but let's use the logic, same logic, to say, well, what happens if this bracket on the right-hand side was 0? So we said this bracket here was 0, so we went 0 times, doesn't matter what this left-hand bracket is. What's anything times 0? 0. What was this right-hand bracket though? X minus 3. So we're saying the other option, or x minus 3 equals 0. So that bracket equals 0. Okay, well, to solve this little equation, we had plus 3, plus 3. So on the left-hand side, we've just got x, and 0 plus 3 gives us 3. So there are two solutions. X equals negative 3 or x equals 3. So we rearranged it so it equals 0. We factorized, and we would have got bracket, 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 bracket equals 0, or it could have been something times a bracket equals 0. And then we get our two solutions, x equals something or x equals something else. Okay, let's run through a couple of examples here. And so let's have a brand new equation. What happens if we've got something like x squared equals minus 5x minus 6? Okay, so what did we say our first thing was? We're seeing an x squared. So when we see an x squared, we're going to use the technique of rearranging it so we've got kind of everything on the one side and equals 0. Now I've got a positive x squared on this side, so let's rearrange it so these things are all on the left-hand side and it all equals to 0. So in that case, we're going to need to, so I'll do it the same way that he did in the Khan Academy videos. Went plus 5x, and then we need to plus 6. And I think he did some lines like that to say, okay, let's continue with our equation. So minus 5x plus 5x is 0. Minus 6 plus 6 is 0. So we definitely got 0 on the right-hand side. Okay, what we did on one side, we did on the other. So we need to plus 5x and plus 6 here. Okay, so we got x squared still. We need to add 5x, and we need to add 6. Why can't we add those x squareds and 5x's? I mean, they're both kind of x's, aren't they? Not like terms. So the x squared and the x's are different, so we can't add them together. Okay, so we got our first step. We said we got whole lot of stuff equals 0. Next step we had to do, factorize. Okay, so let's factorize. Let's run through our steps of factorization. First thing, common factor. Nothing too interesting. 1 goes into all of them, but there isn't an x in all of them. There's no other number, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nothing else goes in. Okay, second thing, difference of two squares. Definitely not. It's not something squared minus something else. Okay, third thing, trinomial. Remember, third thing, trinomial, tricycle, threes. So if that's the case, we go bracket, 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 bracket. Don't forget this, equals 0. Still an equation. Okay, so what times what gives you our x squared? X times x. Now, we need to multiply something together here, and when we multiply it out, we still get our 5x. So what times what? I'm just going to run straight into it and go, well, I think 2 times 3 gives us 6. And I think that a positive 2 times a positive 3 gives us 6. Now let's check, does that work for our middle term, for our 5x? That's the difficult part. So x times 3, I'm just going to put it in some working space here, is 3x. 2 times x gives us 2x. 3x plus 2x gives us a 5x. It's a positive 5x. Do we have a positive 5x? Great stuff. So our factorizations worked. Now we said this gives us two equations. Two little equations. Either this first bracket equals 0, or the second bracket equals 0, because 0 times anything is the 0 that we want. So either x plus 2, that bracket must be 0, or the other bracket, x plus 3, should equal 0. Okay, well, we can solve. Let's just work one equation at a time. X plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 2, subtract 2. And so that leaves us with x. 0 minus 2 gives us minus 2. Or x plus 3. What do we need to do for this one? Minus 3, minus 3. So that we just left with x on the left-hand side and negative 3 on the right-hand side. And there we go. There are our two solutions. X equals negative 2 or x equals negative 3. Now, you can plug it back into the equation and check that it works. Let's run through that. I really like that about those Khan Academy videos, actually, that he always went back and said, okay, let's check it. X equals negative 2. What's negative 2 all squared? Positive 4. Okay. What's negative 5 times negative 2? It's positive 10, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So this was 10 minus 6. Is 4 equal to 10 minus 6? Yes, it is. So the first solution works. What is the other solution? X equals negative 3. Okay, negative 3 squared, let's choose another color here, is 9. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. Still just subtracting 6. Is 9 equal to 15 minus 6? Yeah, it is. So our two solutions both work. And we do need to find both of those. So there's our strategy to solve these types of equations. So your exercise is going to be shortish, and your one practice example to do before you join the meet is, let's give you this one. Let's say that x squared equals, there's number one to do, equals, let's go for 6 minus x. I'll give you the hint. Rearrange it, so we've got everything on one side, and it equals 0. Make sure that that looks like a nice trinomial. X squared on first, and then factorize, bracket, 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 two solutions, and we should be good to go. Okay, we'll run through that again in the meet when you join there now, and I'll put the exercise that you need to do here. Just going to be a few short questions like that. See you soon.